Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode on My Line Purpose podcast. I'm your host, Nicole, and I have Kristina Gandry here today, who I'm so excited for everybody to meet. And I'm excited to learn some things alongside of our listeners. And Kristina, I'm just so excited to hear your wisdom. I'm so excited to work with you. I'm going to work with Kristina also to learn all things social. So if you are looking to grow your social media and grow your business from social media, do not turn off this episode. It is going to be for you. Kristina, why don't you first tell us where are you calling in from and what are you grateful for today?
I am in Dallas, Texas. And today I am exceptionally grateful for a business that allows me the ability to be home with my sick child. So last night, I think it was like 10:30, from 10:30 to 2 a.m., I was up with a child with 102-degree fever.
Mm,
And I kept her home from school today, and we're spending the day snuggling in bed. She's taking her nap right now. And I'm just grateful that I built a business that not only provides for my family, but also lets me live a really good life and take care of them.
yeah, absolutely. And, just from following your social media, it's like you're getting to do so much fun stuff. And that's really what life is all about. And having a business is to be able to live the life that we want, not to be trapped by our business. And I think that that is such a great segue to hear a little bit of your backstory of you didn't graduate high school and say, I'm going to, be this social media expert, Instagram expert, I don't think. So why don't you take us on a little bit of a journey of where your career was and then how you transitioned to where you are today. And then we'll talk about what today looks like.
Okay, so everything changed for me when the same daughter that is upstairs, sick in her bedroom. So that would be about 3 years ago when she was born. So my daughter was born with a heart condition. And at that time, I was in the hospital scared, Googling out of pocket costs of heart surgeries. And I kept seeing this like $500,000 number. And we didn't have $500,000 just sitting in an account. And I left that hospital saying I had a small side wellness business that I was going to make the money in order to make sure she was always taken care of. But the problem was I had never really been successful on social media. I hadn't had any money for ads. And I very much had, a mindset or a story in my head that was, I don't know if I can be successful of this. And that didn't start then. That started, from the time that you're a little kid, right? And
Right.
and how you're raised. And when I was a little kid, I remember watching the movie Independence Day,
Hmm.
and the world is like blowing up everywhere, right? And people are getting on this plane, and I look at my dad and I'm like, how do I get on that plane? Like, if something happens, how do I get on that plane? And he's like, okay, so you're going to go to Stanford Law School. You're going to be chief of staff for the president of the United States. And that's what you're going to do. So I kind of went my whole life, right? Okay, I'm going to go to law school. I'm going to become a lawyer. I'm going to do the things my family says. And I thought that that's all that I could do. I had like a very fixed mindset of like, that's who I am. And I did. I went to law school. I got the big fancy job. And then I
Mm.
was sitting in that big fancy job with my daughter, who was about 6 months old when the pandemic hit. And my law firm gave me one of those calls that you never want to get. And
Mm.
it was like, you can either step it up and work twice as hard as you're working. Like, we feel like you're focused on family right now, right? So you can either step it up and work twice as hard. You can either go part time and take a pay cut. And I just felt like in law, that part time doesn't really exist.
Right.
So that really rubbed me kind of the wrong way. Or you can like walk away, right? And so I'm on this phone call.
And
Hadn't
sorry,
talked.
is this at the same time as your daughter's heart condition
So
happening?
so this is my first daughter, right? So
Okay.
we flashed back, right?
Okay.
Went to law school, was a lawyer, had my first child. It's 6 months into the pandemic. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh my gosh, I they're giving me these options. And so on that call, and I didn't feel like I had more to give to my job at that point. My husband's an attorney. We were playing like pass the baby, like she was a hot potato in COVID. And so I quit my job. So there I am, and I'm half of our household income, and I didn't talk to my husband. So I walk into the kitchen, and I'm
Mm.
like, hey, I just quit my job. And I send our life into this tailspin.
Hmm.
And the tailspin, we move to Texas. He finds a job that replaces my salary. The day we move in that house, we find out I'm pregnant with second baby that we then come out to find out has a heart condition. So I'm kind of sitting here in this moment. And the reason I took you back, where she has this heart condition of being like, well, if only you had kept your fancy law job, you guys might have
Right.
the money for paid for this. If only you had, done the thing that made you so unhappy, you wouldn't be in this position. So I'm sitting here in this moment in the hospital, like beating myself up a little bit, knowing that I've never been successful on social media before. I had a small wellness business, but I took all the Instagram courses and none of them worked for me. I was like, I don't know how people do this.
Classic.
Yeah, I was like, this is like, it was impossible. And so I'm sitting there in the hospital, but I'm like, I have this little girl and I need to provide for her and I cannot afford to put any money into my business. I can't afford ads. I I got to try this Instagram thing. So I go home. This is 2022, and towards the end of 2022, when I kind of came out of the very, very early postpartum, I make this spreadsheet. And it has my current follower count, and then it has the percentage I'm going to grow by each week. And then I project it out over the whole year. And I have 2,000 followers on Instagram. And I tell my husband, I'm going to hit 100,000 followers this year. And he like looks at me, he's like looking over my shoulder at the spreadsheet, and he's like, that's a really big goal. And AKA, he meant it's not going to happen. Right.
Right.
And I was like, who are you to tell me this? And so what I did is I threw out everything I'd ever been taught about Instagram. I created a brand new system based on data. I have an accounting degree based on marketing. I have a business degree, so learned a lot about marketing along the way. And shocker, advice actually from Instagram. So not what the gurus were out there telling people, but what was Instagram actually saying? And I grew that
Mm.
account from 2,000 to 90,000 followers in 9 months and 10x my business.
Wow. And at the time, you 10x'd the wellness business?
Yes. Yes. So I 10x the wellness business. I had to have a big wait list in my business. And it's around this time that my friends who have businesses are all like, girl, what are you doing? Like, give me your formula. And I'm like, here, it's so easy. Well, they all start growing, but not just growing their followers, they start growing their revenue at the same time. And it was around that time, I remember the date, it was September 25th of 2023, that I was like, I think this needs to be my business. I think I need to help people grow on social media. I think this is what I was put on this earth to do. So I start an Instagram account from zero, and
Mm.
all the imposter syndrome comes up, right? Because you're like, can I do this again? Is my system really as good as it is, right? You're questioning yourself. And in 65 days, I went from zero to 200,000 followers.
Oh my God.
Yeah, 2 months later, which is great. But actually, what I think is more impressive is that 2 months after that, I had over a $62,000 launch. So those people then bought from me, which that's what we all want, right? Like
Right.
followers are
Which
great, but
And what's really impressive about that little piece of information is it nips in the butt the story that so many people have, which I've had myself as well, is that it takes time, a long time. So like, yes, you got 200,000 people watching you, but 2 months later converted X amount of those people to have a 60,000 plus dollar launch. That the no love trust was made immediately.
right. Right. And it has to do
Mm.
with how you build that type of account, right? It's very different from, and why social media didn't work for me before was I was trying to grow like an influencer.
Right.
And that's all that I was taught. And all the Instagram courses at the time, there was like influencer school and these other ones. And I'm not an influencer and I'm never going to be an influencer. I'm a business owner that wants to help and impact others. And I had to learn how to grow my Instagram in that way and from that lens. And when I did, it was like a superpower that didn't just produce a following, but produced a following that bought from me.
Mm. Oh my gosh. When Kayla listens to this episode, she is going to be so excited to hear that you did this on a spreadsheet because that's how her brain thinks. And so, right now, currently, I'm our social media person. I'm the one who's thinking of content and creating the content. And Kayla is such a strategy systems person. And then to hear that you're both. Like you take the idea, the vision, and put it into the spreadsheet. So, later on in the episode towards the end, we're going to hear how can people work with you and all that sort of stuff. But I want to talk a little bit about what is drawing me to want to work with you, because I know a lot of our listeners will be able to hear themselves in my story, and then I want to ask you a couple of questions. So the reason that I reached out to you and said, hey, do you do this sort of thing, I want help, is it's kind of twofold. I feel like it's been 5 years of building this Instagram account, and we're at 5,000 people. Like, that's pretty small. We could say maybe 1,000 people a year or something like that. And we don't run ads, and we do have a very profitable business. But the time it takes, if I'm just being so transparent, we'll have people who join our year-long program who say, yeah, I've been watching and following you for 3, 4 years and I'm ready now. And I'm like, am I priming people to work with me in 2029 right now? Like, is there a way to speed up that process? And I think that a big piece of it is really inviting people into who you are, how you can help them. And that is slightly different than influencer style of here's every product I'm using, and here's everything I do every day, and here's all my kids and my husband, and the total, like Brené Brown says, being vulnerable is not live tweeting your bikini wax. And sometimes I feel like influencer marketing is that. It's like you've got to show everything. And I I met you in March. So for people who are listening, Kristina and I met because we're both in the same mastermind. I met you in March. You have such a calm, grounded presence. And I know you're smart. You don't just get a business degree and a law degree by not having a few brain cells. So I'm like, okay, she's smart. She knows what she's doing. She's grounded, and you have the actual proof. So I'm like, well, that's who I want to learn from. I want to learn how can I do this in a way that somebody's not going to tell me go live tweet your bikini wax to then sell your year-long mastermind, but here's a way to do it effectively. So that's why I reached out to you, and I'm super excited. I have to pick my dates. But now what I want to talk about for people who are hearing my story and maybe thinking like, yeah, my growth is slow too. And I want to work with somebody like Kristina and figure out how to do this. Who is your favorite type of person or business owner to be able to support, and why?
My favorite type of business owner to support are people who are good at what they do and who care about their clients or what they sell or their product, and people actually getting the results and the things that they say and they market. I am so fortunate that I work with the most impactful people, no matter what it is, whether they're selling you a kitchen towel, right? They're so passionate about it, cleaning up after your messy toddlers, or whether they're selling business coaching. They're so passionate about their people actually seeing results. And at the end of the day, helping people grow their following is helping people grow their leads for their business. And it's helping those people increase their impact. And so for me, I get the most joy when I'm helping people that care increase their impact, because I do feel like, there are people in the online space who are just in it for themselves. They're in it for a quick dollar, and they're in it to sell more. And that's okay. But I don't personally get as much fulfillment from that as people who are like, I'm here. I know I'm good at what I do. And I know if more of the right people saw me, my business would explode.
Absolutely. This kind of makes me think, actually, if we dial it back to maybe 10, 15 minutes ago in the conversation, where you talk about okay, so there's this part of your brain that's, very academic and spreadsheet and detail oriented and methodical. And then there was the part that walked into the kitchen and said to your husband, I quit my job. So those seem like two very different actions. What do you think really compelled you to be like, I'm not overthinking this. I'm not I'm just going to do this. And what was the biggest pushback you got from people in your life at that time? Because I know a lot of our listeners, they want to exit the job that's soul sucking, or they want to do the thing that they really want to do. And either their partner isn't supportive, or they're still worrying about what their dad will think or what their colleagues think or whatever it might be. So, what advice could you give to people when you're like, sometimes you just got to pull the trigger and do it? And what kind of pushback did you get and how did you work through it?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, even though that was the moment and it was very spur of the moment, I think I'd always felt like, is this it?
Mm,
I got the big law job, I had the office, I had the door, I had my name on my door, like all the things, right? And I was, I graduated college pretty quickly. So when I started my law career, I was maybe 24. So it's not like I was super old at the time, but
yeah.
yet I think I felt like even when I started to feel that pull of like, is this it for my life? Like, I'm too far gone, right? I've committed to this law thing and I can't change now.
Right.
And so I was just kind of going along with it and doing it. And then for me, when I had my first child, I really struggled with looking at her and knowing there was more inside me to give and a bigger impact to have. And one day looking at her, telling her how I didn't go for it,
Mm.
or, how I,
Oof.
yeah.
Full body chills.
And to me, that kind of, she's about 6 months when I left, and that kind of was building. I was like, so, and I had all these ideas and all these people I wanted to help and this mission. And then, I got a little bit kind of angry, right? When they called me and we're having this conversation and I loved my job and it was my everything. And, one of the things on the table is, kind of pulling back a little bit and taking a pay cut. I was like, who are you to give me a pay cut, right?
Right.
And by the way, I totally get their perspective on it. It was just one of those things inside where I am such a like women earning more and advancing that it almost just hit me all at the same time, along with, hey, I don't want to tell my daughters that I never went for it. And I was like, oh well, threw my hands in the air. I'm just gonna go for it.
Right.
That said, I think my husband thought I had lost my mind. And he was very supportive. I have rough pregnancies, I have rough postpartum, so I was going through a lot emotionally. So he was great and super supportive of it. But that said, I think I felt like I disappointed every single person around me.
Mm. And
My
that's
parents were,
hard.
yeah, my parents were so proud that I was a lawyer.
Hmm.
My, husband, we had this house and this successful career and the whole thing. And I just felt like I was disappointing them in that.
Hmm.
And I really had to dig deep in myself and my self-belief. And the one thing I did have is I knew that I was made for more and that I was going to have a huge impact in the end. So I leaned into that and instead of the fear that I was feeling at the time.
Yeah, it's almost like that's just what you have to do. Like you said, you're looking at your daughters and I think I heard Ed Milet say this, or like a reel of Ed Milet saying this, like you tell your kids they can be, do, and have whatever they want, but then are they going to look to you and say, well, then why aren't you? Like, are you really going to be that example for them? And I just thought, like, ooh, that hits. Our stories are so parallel in so many ways, in that when I'm a guest on podcasts and they, ask me to backtrack my story a little bit, I often talk about it started with a movie, which was The Beach in 2008, or I was in grade eight. It was in the year 2000. And how watching the beach, and I had never been on an airplane yet, and I hadn't traveled to tropical places like that, or places overseas. And when I saw Thailand, it instantly unlocked something in my brain where I was like, I want to travel the world. But I ignored that for so long. And everybody said, you would make such a great teacher. You should be a teacher. So then I do 6 years of university and become a teacher. And I was so unfulfilled and so unhappy. And I was engaged and I had the classroom and the benefits and all of the things. And at 30, I made that decision to completely walk away and resign. And my principal, my friends, everybody was like, you are crazy to do this. And I was like, I'm going to Australia and I'm going to Thailand and I'm going to start living my life. But I know at the time I disappointed, like, I'm not guessing this. I know I disappointed my parents, specifically my dad, because he was so proud that I was a teacher and a good teacher, a really great one. And when I'm talking to people and they're asking like, but how do you just do it? I think it's like I don't have kids, so I yet. So I didn't have that like, I'm gonna make this happen for them. But I had this sort of similar feeling to what you're saying of like, am I gonna live the rest of my life this way? And I don't know if you felt this way too, but I kind of felt like the worst case scenario, I just go back and get another teaching job. If my worst case scenario is how I've already been living, then I don't know, I might as well just try and go for it. And when I went to Australia and Thailand, I saw people in cafes working on their laptops, and I was like, "Oh, I I think I want to work from my laptop. I think I want to figure out how to have a business online." And it's like following those little crumbs. Yet there are so many people out there who are so afraid. And so when I think of fear and I think of people who are coming to you to grow their social media and then ultimately grow their business from their social media, what are some of the like fears or worries or objections that people have when they first come to you about growing their social and then ultimately growing their business from their social?
So there are two big ones. So, and almost everyone has them, whether or not they actually admit to it. The very first one is the fear of being seen.
Mm,
I don't approach social media from a standpoint of you need to share your bikini wax your entire life. I approach it as you need to share it as a business owner and you need to share, personal and experiences, but through the lens of your ideal client. What benefits them? What do they want to see? So it's a
hmm.
very strategic lens. So it's not like I'm telling people they have to share everything, but they still do have to share or show their face or show up. And with that, there's a fear of being judged. There's a fear of what your friends and your colleagues and they're going to think. I remember for me, so the social media bug, when I was a lawyer, it was 2017. I read this Wall Street Journal article and it talked about the rise of influencing and like the business of it. And I remember being like, oh my gosh, the fact that you can make money online from getting people's attention, this is mind blowing. And so I went out, I bought a camera. I was like, I'm going to be an influencer. And it's laughable because I'm like the least fashionable, that is so not me. But when I did that in 2017, it was right around the holidays and we had a lawyer law school reunion holiday party.
Hmm.
And I walked into that room and they were doing like a card game where people like answering people. And one of the questions was like about someone who's like shallow or vain. And they all railed on me for taking pictures of myself and sharing them on Instagram. That
Oh,
that was like, how could I do that? And I quit after that. I was like, oh no, I don't want to get made fun of by all of my peers. And I think that's like everyone's worst fear, right? They're gonna put themselves out there and
totally.
everyone's gonna make fun of them.
Yeah.
And you know what? It happened to me and it really wasn't that bad.
Mm, hmm.
In the moment it was. And I definitely let the fear hold me back. I always think like, man, if I would have kept going then, where would I be now?
Yeah.
But looking back on it, all of those people are still in their jobs.
I was just gonna say, like,
All of those
I
people.
hope they're still watching you making your millions doing what you do.
I'm about to be on a big stage. I have a keynote coming up in August. And I always think of like that Imagine Dragon songs, right? Like, I'll be on the stage while you're watching in the nosebleeds. All those people, they're still watching in the nosebleeds. And so in the beginning, what I tell people is, hey, one, you're never going to be judged by someone doing more than you because they're too busy doing stuff to care. And second, the opinions of others, they don't pay your bills.
That's right.
And I really anchored into those, and my clients anchor into those. And I will say it's one of those things where, like, the more you do it, the better it is. And I have a lot of masterminds and small group courses where you're doing it alongside other people. And I do think that helps that fear of, like, oh, she's doing it too.
Mm,
Okay, it's okay for me. And then the second I get is they are so fearful that they can't be consistent long enough in order to see the results.
right.
Because anyone that tells you that you don't have to have some consistency is just lying to you and telling you what you want to hear.
Totally. And data doesn't lie. I think one of my first podcast episodes I released 5 years ago is about how to be consistent. And I'm sure this goes so perfectly with your work. You look at data and that like you have, if anybody's losing weight, if they're growing their bank account, if they're doing whatever, you will be consistent or you'll want to be consistent if you look at the data and the data proves your consistency is helping you with the goal.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Right. And so for me, it's that initial conversation of, hey, you might not see, you do a post and you might not see a follower from it. But what other markers can we look at? For example, like 7 day reach is something really big I'm looking at. Okay. Every 7 days, do you just know how to reach more people?
Mm,
Because if you know how to reach more people every 7 days, you're going to grow. It's
right.
going to happen for you. And so I'm able to very quickly help and show them, hey, it is hard to be consistent, but one, having a system, as you know, in your business from having systems, it makes things way easier. So once you actually have a strategy and you're not just scrolling Instagram for inspiration and throwing something up at the end of the day and then feeling very
Totally.
defeated,
Mm,
it's very different. It's a lot easier to be consistent. And then two, once you start to see that you're reaching more people over and over and over again, consistency becomes easy.
mm. Okay. And then I have so many questions. Let's just say, obviously, without giving away your program or what you do inside of your work, what is something that you help people do inside of your programs or the way you work with them without obviously giving it all away right now in this episode?
Yeah, well, I help them grow an audience of people that buy. And actually, I like to give a lot away because I'm fortunate in that my clients work with me because I make their life so much easier. And so, the number one thing I would tell people if they're looking to make a change on their own in their Instagram and get people that will buy is they need to stop targeting a person. Your Instagram is not for a 30, flirty, thriving mom of two from Oklahoma.
Hmm.
Your Instagram is there to solve a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Your business makes money by solving problems. Every single person's business solves a problem. And
Hmm.
so the number one thing I would say, and the place that I start with most people is making sure that there's clarity in that problem, making sure that that problem stands out. If the problem you solve and the way you talk about it sounds like every other business coach out there, good luck.
Hmm.
You're going to be noise. And by the way, this is where we're going in 2026. It's only going to get where you have to be more differentiated.
Right.
And so then we go ahead and we make that unique, we make that stand out. And then from there, we go ahead, we build an entire Instagram strategy around that of what does the content actually look like for your goals. So every single person has different goals. Some of my clients, they really want to grow. That's amazing. That takes viral content. That's a specific content in a specific way. Some of my clients, they want to speed up the time. Their average purchase time, and I saw it recently, end of last year, it went from 3 months to 7 months in their funnel.
Mm.
They want to speed that up. Okay, awesome. I'm helping them put a trust flywheel with their content in their business so that their audience is trusting them quicker, right? So they're posting trust based content. That is not viral content.
Right.
The same content does not do both things, right? And then some of my people are like, I have a lot of people there. I can't get them to buy. Okay, awesome. And they have a launch coming up. We're going to focus on sales content.
Mm.
And so it really is this process of one, making sure that very first we're calling in the right people because you do not want to go viral or get an Instagram of the wrong people. You will be so frustrated. You
Oh,
will
I
think you
had
have a
that
sales
happen.
problem.
Hmm.
And then once we have the right people, it's about getting our content in front of them. And I give them the system to do that. And then building out systems that lead to the business results or objectives that you want. But I am also very honest with people that while it can happen quickly, it still is a system and it's a foundation in your business. And so I treat it like something we're building a solid foundation to last.
Mm. I love that so much. Yeah, you're right in that whether it's Instagram content or an email or a podcast episode, like the intention behind it can't be many things. It can't be to build trust and also go viral and also, make the sale. Like that's just not how it works. So I think, working with somebody like yourself and having that clear objective and clear pathway about what are you really trying to achieve here, removes decision fatigue for people. How many people are in decision fatigue and, like you said, just scrolling Instagram every day and being like, oh, well, I like that, so maybe I'll post that today and see if it lands with people, with no strategy. So yeah, I think the work that you do is so needed. Tell us about one of your favorite testimonials that you've ever gotten from somebody you've worked with.
So, one of my favorite testimonials or students, her name is Lindsay. And Lindsay was in the wellness space. And when Lindsay came to me, she had like 800 followers. And I have a 9-week program. It's called 0 to 100K Buyers Academy. So Lindsay came through that program. And I think in like the 9 weeks, she doubled her following, which is great. That is to see that progress in 9 weeks. That's great. And then after that, she kind of went through the program with a friend of hers. And her friend gained like 20,000 followers in the 9 weeks. And so Lindsay got a little bit of imposter syndrome, right? Seeing her friend have so much success, and Lindsay had success, but it wasn't her friend's success. So Lindsay kind of fell off.
Mm.
I get a Instagram DM from her July 3rd of last year. Kristina, I've just gained 3,000 followers in the last 24 hours. It's happening. And she goes from her 2,000 followers, right? She started at 800 and then kind of grew to over 50,000 followers
Wow.
with 90 days of committing back, executing on the content strategy that we built, that she put together. And the amazing thing is that, so Lindsay had kind of this one arm of her wellness business. And so that was July. So, July, August, September, right? She's growing. She's growing to that 50,000. She's getting new people in. October rolls around and she decides she wants to launch a new online component, some new offers to her business. She launches them, and in the next 5 months, she adds an additional $50,000 in revenue to her business.
Wow. From something that she just created off the back of having those followers. Like it was a new program or product or offer.
Exactly. Brand new product, brand new offer. And Lindsay is someone who she works, or she's cutting back, but she is also a full-time X-ray tech. So
Wow.
she's building all of this in her spare time, meaning that we're having to be incredibly efficient. We're having to have systems in place. And right, that extra $50,000 in 5 months when you're trying to set yourself up to give yourself more opportunities in your show is huge. And so that is why I've had people go from 7 followers to 300,000 in 5 months. I've had incredible results, but Lindsay, how it has changed what's possible for her family and their life,
Mm,
that's my favorite story.
so good. So good. I can't wait for everybody who's listening to this. This will probably come out towards the end of July, early August, and I will have hopefully already had a call with you. And our intention is to really strategize our book launch, putting out our book in the fall and content around that, and thinking about how do we make content with a book that's not like physically in our hands yet, to get people excited about it. And I'm so excited to sit down with you and strategize that. And I can't wait for everybody to watch the unfolding and the process of it. Um, Kristina, before we hear how people can work with you, what's for sale, where they can find you, all that great stuff, any like last words of wisdom that you want people to hear? Because I know 99% of our audience is women entrepreneurs who are using social media. Anything that you're like, you need to know this or hear this before we go today?
I am so passionate about Instagram because not only did it allow me to build a very huge business and have great revenue quickly, but I have a life that I love along with it. Because I built an Instagram that brings in new people while I am sleeping, while I take the weekend off. So every single weekend, I don't go into my Instagram. My last post is on Friday. I do something on Monday. Like this past weekend, my email list grew. I made sales. I sold out an offer on Monday. People were buying over the weekend. And that is from creating a system for me on Instagram that ran in the background that allowed me to then have a very, very full life. And I think so often we think about, oh, 30 minutes to do this post, or "Oh, I got to post on Instagram." And we think of it as another thing in our business. But I
Mm,
think if we're willing to flip that and think, no, this is the thing in my business that gives me my time back, that gives me more leads so I can create more money, that stops me from chasing people or having hour-long discovery calls or 27 messages in the DMs with somebody who's not interested, because I
mm.
actually took the time to have a strategy that brings my dream people to me. It will change not just the revenue in your business, but it will change your life and the balance that you have in it when you earn. And that is what I am so passionate about for women.
Oh, I love that. Okay, I've got one last question that I want to ask so that everybody can hear it. Do you have people like ourselves who our primary offer is high ticket, like a $16,000 offer, who come and say, like, that won't work for me? Like, how am I going to convert somebody in Instagram to a multiple five-figure offer?
Always, always. I'll tell you this. I have sold $20,000 coaching packages off of my Instagram.
Mm,
I've sold $20,000 packages without ever talking to anybody off of Instagram. And I've had clients do the same. And so I think so often we want to tell ourselves that, oh, it won't work for me or it's going to be hard for me. But in reality, it just means that your system and your setup might look a little bit different. Your socials and how you sell them and how you build trust, and that I kind of talked about that trust flywheel, the length of that flywheel,
mm,
it depends on your business and also what you're selling and how expensive that is. So, someone who's selling a $47 offer, they might have like a 14-day trust flywheel that they're building trust because people will make those decisions quicker. Yours might be 6 months,
hmm.
right? So I think it's really for those people just realizing that you absolutely can, but that your system needs to be set up for that. And where I see people say it doesn't work is where the system wasn't built for that type of business or for that type of offer, right? They're doing what I like to call cut and paste Instagram coaching, which is what's out there in most memberships, in most courses, in most things where you don't work with someone. So I'm so different. Like, you can't go into my library and buy a course from me.
Right.
Every single thing I do is live and I'm in it with you. I'm the one coaching. I'm the one showing up on calls. I'm the one saying, hey, I know you're telling me this, but this is what your business is and your strategy. Do you think you really need this over here? And what I see in the coaching industry, especially with Instagram, is people aren't taking the time to look at the underlying marketing behind the Instagram strategy. And so they wind up saying things like, oh, I worked with someone and it doesn't work for high ticket.
Mm. You're like, okay, I'll just prove that wrong right now. I
Well,
love it.
I'm like, hey, let me help give you a strategy then that will. And also, what's the alternative? Right? So I think that that's a really important thing people to think about. One, Instagram is free. Okay. So, alternative, do you want to go spend a bunch of money on ads? Most people I work with are like, no, I
No.
don't want to do that. And especially with what we've seen in ad prices rising and in ad-based funnels, I know there are people putting 5x the amount of leads through their funnels now that they used to. And so I'm seeing a lot of people who are like, no, wait, I want to do organic. Okay. So if you want to do organic, there's a couple different platforms. There's TikTok. I would not recommend you sell a $16,000 program on TikTok.
Yeah.
Great for some stuff, not for that. Okay. There's LinkedIn that could work maybe depending on where you're at. There's Instagram, right? And then there's YouTube if you want to make videos but if you want to be on Instagram, you're going to have to find a way to make it work.
Yeah. Mm. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's, this is what I tell our clients all the time when they're like, "Oh, I just like I don't really want to show up. I don't really want to be on Instagram. Like, what's another way?" I'm like, "We can talk about all the ways, but we're talking about a free marketing platform with access to 5 billion plus people who use the internet." So, do you want to talk about other options or what?
And the data behind it, because I'm a data girly, is insane, right? It's like 70 or 80% of people are following a brand, report following a brand with the intention to buy from them.
Yes.
I bought my house from a realtor that I found on Instagram, right? Like, this is the way more and more people are buying. It's where they're looking, it's where they're making their next purchase, it's where you're building trust. And so it's like, you can tell yourself, oh, this won't work for me, but like, what's the alternative? You're just not going to do it.
Yeah.
So if you're going to do it, why not do it with a strategy that one, gets you better results, but also saves your sanity.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's long term, like you said at the beginning. We're not in it, you're not in it. We're not here for like a quick get rich scheme overnight. I want a long term sustainable business. I want my business to be around in another decade, if not more. Like I want this. So I want the strategy and the growth for this to be long lasting, not like tell me how to get rich tonight and then I'll figure the rest out later. Like that's not what I want. And so yeah, I think it's for the person who's like, "Oh yeah, I actually really enjoy my business and I don't want it to go anywhere. So I want the help to think about how to make this long lasting."
Yeah, and you build that audience and then you have them for years to come, right? Lindsay has her 50,000 followers for launch over and over and over again. And not only does she have that, she has the skill of knowing how to create content that those people enjoy, that those people value. And at the end of the day, that's just becoming a better marketer. And that's just going to allow her to make more money. So I think it's really reframing it from I'm just posting on Instagram to I'm creating an engine in my business that's going to allow so much more to be possible for me, both in my business and in my life.
Mm-hmm. Okay, tell us, where can people find you? How can they work with you? I know that you just said you do live stuff. What's for sale? We'll make sure it's all linked in the show notes.
So you can find me on Instagram. It's Kristina with a K dot social. I also have a website, www.kristina with a K dot social, Kristina social, no dot,
Mhm.
dot com. And I am very different, like I kind of said before. And so right now, I don't have anything active or open, but what I do is twice a year, I run a program called 0 to 100K Buyers Academy. And inside of that program, I actually limit capacity. And I personally work with students over the 8 to 9 weeks of growing their Instagram with a large audience that buys from them, right? I talked about my goal of getting 100,000 followers in a year. And that program is everything that I needed to know and I needed to learn in order to be able to make that a reality. So I do that in usually January, February, and then usually September, October timeframe twice a year. And that is the best way to work with me.
Mm, okay, I love it. So we'll link that in the show notes and all of the ways to find you. Christina, this was so awesome and so value packed. Thank you so much for coming on today and sharing your story and really painting the vision for everybody of like what is actually possible. I think that's what we all need is a reminder of it's all possible and claim it. You know, if walking into your kitchen today and telling your husband you quit your job because you're going all in on the thing you really want to do is what somebody needed to hear today, then I'm so grateful for that.
I am too. Thank you so much.
Thanks everybody for listening, and we'll be back next week with another episode.